all this is my fault. So the only thing I want to do right now is hit something as hard as I can.
Good.
Today we tackle one of the most brutal fights in the entire Invincible series. And in a series known for crushed heads and exploding body parts, that's saying something, bro. Brace yourself for an unparalleled breakdown of the most intense battle in Invincible Season 3, Mark Grayson versus the formidable Viltrumite warrior, Conquest. As an orthopedic surgeon, I'll dissect the bone-crushing blows, analyze the anatomy behind the injuries, and explore the real-world implications of these superhero clashes. Or at least, the implications were they in fact human. Because they're not. Remember? Viltrumites. This ought to be epic, man. This ought to be epic. Join me as we unravel the science behind the spectacle, offering insights you won't find anywhere else, but right here. Dr. Chris Raynor. Any recreation of physical trauma depicted in this video is carefully contextualized within an educational lesson on human anatomy in accordance with YouTube's own community guidelines. But to be honest, this shouldn't even really apply here because they're not human. Remember? Professor Mark, take us away. Giving hand-to-hand combat a whole new meaning. Well, when two fists collide, the impact can create a phenomenon called stress wave propagation. But that refers to the force of the impact sending shockwaves through the bones and surrounding tissue, not the entire city block. We might expect a boxer's fracture or a fracture of the end of the fifth metacarpal in a normal human, but it'll take far more than that to damage a Viltrumite metacarpal. With the hands otherwise occupied, a headbutt pits the strongest bone in the face, the forehead or frontal bone, against one of the weakest facial structures, the bridge of the nose. But with an angry Conquest driving his head towards the pavement, I doubt Professor Mark is concerned with his nasal bone or septal cartilage. You never want the back of your head and or cervical spine plummeting towards the earth.
Right about now, Anissa would be telling you how the Viltrum Empire would turn this wretched planet into a utopia.
Despite his enhanced Viltrumite anatomy, Mark is obviously shaken by the impact. Even at a tiny fraction of the height, the human body would be looking at fractures to the skull and cervical spine, traumatic brain and spinal cord injuries, and even paralysis. Mark may have had the wind knocked out of him, but I doubt he's suffering from more than a minor concussion. But hey.
Okay. That's a start.
Obviously, Mark is eager to return the favor, tackling Conquest through several city blocks. And although Conquest's thoracic and lumbar spine both take a beating, the thoracic is far more likely to sustain damage here since it is more rigid and less flexible than its lumbar neighbor. We're talking vertebral fractures, rib fractures, a punctured lung.
This! I want more!
And more you shall have. All right, Professor Mark, why not kick things up a notch? Though we look similar, the Viltrumite anatomy is a tad more robust than us humans. For instance, we can't breathe, let alone fight, in the vacuum of space. With no oxygen, crazy low air pressure, and temperatures that'll freeze your lungs solid, it's not exactly the most hospitable place for humans. So unless you're an astronaut rocking a fancy pressurized suit, space is basically a giant vacuum waiting to suck the air out of your lungs. Like, literally. Two fists to the gut probably won't help. A powerful blow here can easily disrupt the diaphragm and surrounding nerves, while increasing abdominal pressure. Imagine falling from outer space while the body is desperately trying to breathe air that isn't even there. Thankfully, this is the Viltrumite we're talking about. Under these conditions, that is, plummeting towards the earth, a human would experience rapid decompression. That is the rapid expansion of air in the lungs, causing the gases inside the body to go, well, haywire. Despite the thickening atmosphere, hypoxia would kick in, making it tough to catch your breath. And the intense heat from atmospheric friction would leave you, well, crispy. A chunky right cross connects right around Mark's left eye socket, where the frontal, zygomatic, maxilla, lacrimal, palatine, and sphenoid bones all come together to form a fragile composite structure known as the orbital. Mark plummets through several buildings without defending himself, leaving me to assume that he is seeing stars and at the very least has sustained a minor concussion. Think of it like your brain's check engine light just came on. You might feel a little dazed, confused, and wondering what even hit you.
The person I saw get kicked in the face, the reason why I laughed is because when he got kicked, he looked at us for confirmation. Like he needed approval on what just happened. He's like, yo, shit, yo!
The purple bruising around Mark's eye hints at a hematoma, where blood has leaked into the soft tissues and possibly even broken bones.
It was him, yeah. Better look at his other foot if he kicked you again. He's good. That guy's good.
And here's where I would argue the fight gets really serious. Goodbye, innocent bystanders. Anyone unable to evacuate would be hurled violently backwards by the blast, sustaining all manner of injury. Thankfully, Mark, on the other hand, well, they call him Invincible for a reason. In an oil tanker explosion, Mark is subjected to intense blast waves, thermal burns, and flying metal shrapnel and debris, any one of which could easily punch someone's ticket, if you know what I mean. Hell, a human body that close to an exploding tanker would instantly be transformed into mincemeat peppered across the battlefield. Think Byford Dolphin.
Stop! Listen to me. Just listen.
The old cybernetic hand to the throat, challenging Mark's airway by compressing the trachea while simultaneously squeezing his carotid arteries and jugular veins, restricting blood flow between the brain and heart and pressuring nerves that regulate vital organ function.
Are you crazy?
While swinging our brave professor's body around by the neck will only exacerbate these risks, I'm more concerned about the innocent bystanders nearby.
You just need the right motivation.
This man has suffered a devastating injury, a severed lower leg just above the left knee, or a traumatic above knee amputation. Hopefully, someone with medical know-how will apply direct pressure to the wound and get a tourniquet applied around the thigh immediately to control the bleeding. If left unattended, this is a ticket to the afterlife by way of severe blood loss and the resultant hypovolemic shock, wherein the heart cannot pump enough blood to the body and organs eventually fail. And remember, when applying a tourniquet, as high and tight as possible is the key to survival. And now, with Oliver on the scene, Invincible has even more to worry about. Damn it. I mean, what were any of us expecting? This is the Conquest we're talking about. A brutal slap, too quick to follow, bounces Oliver off the concrete to reveal a bloody nose, bruising on his right cheek, and lightheadedness consistent with a concussion. Sounds like a surefire way to make Invincible angry. Oh, the road rash someone would experience from sliding across the concrete like this. I would expect all soft tissue on the right side of the face to be scraped to the bone. And at only 1 millimeter thick, no chance the delicate skin of the eyelid would be able to protect the right eye from irreparable damage. Surgeons would start with a thorough cleaning and debridement to remove dead tissue and debris, followed by a sterile saline solution irrigation to flush out remaining particles and bacteria from the wound. Then they can begin to assess which bones and tissues are in need of repair. But wait, why am I even helping the enemy?
Idiot. You
need all the help you can get.
Of course, there's a lot less flesh to lose on the top and the back of the head. With a firm grasp under the mandible, Conquest turns Mark's occipital and parietal bones into a makeshift battering ram, pitting the upper back portion of his skull against the foundation of several buildings before slamming him into the concrete. You know what? This is probably worse. Having the skin that covers your cervical spine torn away so that vertebrae C1 through C7 grind against the concrete could definitely leave you with severe spinal cord damage, shattered vertebrae, and a lifetime of paralysis or chronic pain, if not worse. Because if you remember, C3 through C5 keep the diaphragm alive.
Show me your power. Show me your rage.
Guess you get what you asked for. Longtime viewers of this channel will know. The frontal bone is much stronger than the nasal bone or the lateral cartilage, making a well-placed headbutt a very effective maneuver to turn the tides of battle.
Almost there.
Mark follows up with a series of brutal blows to a Conquest who not only has no interest in protecting himself, but seems to take pleasure in being hit. Masochist, anyone?
1 hour later. 2 hours later.
When high-intensity activities are involved, such as a barrage of vicious punches, anaerobic energy systems kick in to provide the necessary energy. This occurs because high-intensity efforts require rapid energy production, but oxygen delivery to muscles can't keep up with the demand. Anaerobic energy systems generate energy quickly, but without oxygen, allowing for rapid, powerful movements.
If that's all you got, this is just not gonna end well for you.
And yet, despite Mark's effort, it doesn't even seem like Conquest has sustained the slightest injury.
So far, I've been playing with you.
As Conquest swings Mark by his right arm to the sharp sound of what may well be a torn glenohumeral ligament, labrum, or even a rotator cuff, it's clear that things are about to get very real.
Let's step things up, shall we?
When a shoulder under flexion is subjected to intense pulling forces, the ligaments that support the glenohumeral joint would be screaming for mercy.
Not that I'm not having fun.
But obviously, that's nothing compared to a face full of asphalt at 100 and Conquest miles per hour, bro. What happened to the unfortunate man in the top portion of our screen is what we might expect, under less invincible circumstances. Think more splat than bounce. And while Mark seems to have had the wind knocked out of him, a face-first fall from around 10 stories has close to a 100% mortality rate, where we might expect the skull, rib cage, and vital organs they protect to be a jumbled mass of crushed flesh and bone, or maybe even pulverized.
Too easy.
Fun, but easy.
This follow-up stomp to Mark's rib cage would definitely exacerbate any damage previously sustained by the ribs. The heart and lungs are particularly susceptible to puncture wounds from sharp fragments of broken bone. And with 24 ribs, or 12 pairs, we aren't short on opportunity. Labored breath and difficulty speaking are consistent with serious underlying injuries, such as a pneumothorax, or air that leaks into the space between your lung and chest wall, a hemothorax, blood in that same space, or pulmonary contusions, bruising on the lung tissue. We may not need to imagine injuries for much longer.
Eat one, you old sack of turds.
Even here, as Mark holds his left side, clearly in pain, my concerns about rib fractures and internal damage to the lungs increase. Well, damn. Hopefully, Mark's healing factor kicks in ASAP. I think Oliver may need some rescuing. We all know a punch can knock out a tooth if it lands directly on the tooth, or jaw with significant force. But did you know a dislodged tooth can potentially be saved if it's reimplanted within 30 minutes to an hour after the injury? Oliver, better act fast. I count 9 teeth in need of immediate medical attention.
We're not done yet.
Looks to be missing all 8 incisors, the narrow-edged tooth at the front of the mouth, though I'm not sure where the 9th tooth came from, but that'll have to wait, since Conquest is crushing Oliver's head like a palmed basketball with enough force to draw blood. Do you know how difficult it is to draw blood with crushing forces alone?
I do not.
As he squeezes, Conquest is increasing the pressure inside of Oliver's skull to such a degree that skin resistance and blood vessel flexibility are beginning to fail. This is likely a rupture to the middle meningeal artery, which runs beneath the temple, causing blood to burst from Oliver's temple. Or at least, that's what we might expect from a human.
You feel your body starting to rip. First your muscles tear, then your vertebrae, they separate.
Never thought Conquest would be sitting in as a guest professor of today's anatomy lesson, and I don't exactly like it. His analysis is a little off. Musculature is far more flexible than bones, joints, and the ligaments that hold them together. The first thing to go are the weakest joints in the body, and given the manner in which Conquest is holding Oliver, I'd expect to hear a couple of pops and snaps at the level of the hip. Think about the anatomy of the ball and socket joint. It's literally just a ball in a damn socket. Really not designed to withstand that extensive pulling forces.
If you're able to focus through the pain, it's your skin next. Pulled to its breaking point.
Next in line would be Oliver's cervical spine, but he's reinforcing his neck by bracing against Conquest's hand atop his head. We'll need to find the next weakest link in the chain, and I think the lumbar spine is likely our unlucky runner-up. Lumbar spine stability is maintained by a network of ligaments. The anterior longitudinal ligament along the front of the vertebral bodies, and the posterior longitudinal ligament along their rears. Meanwhile, interspinous and intertransverse ligaments connect adjacent vertebrae, while the ligamentum flavum connects the lamina, supporting the posterior aspect of the spine. Under immense pulling forces, I'd wager these structures are most vulnerable at the lowest lumbar vertebrae, or the L5 level, where the facet joint orientation may leave them more vulnerable to pulling forces.
Faster than I thought.
Something tells me Conquest doesn't like to be interrupted.
I'll eat your heart instead.
And with that, he and Mark are back to trading blows like 2 UFC fighters who hate to dodge. As much as he wanted to help, Oliver is in serious need of immediate medical attention. A thorough assessment of Oliver's skull and spine will be necessary, not to mention those missing teeth.
I don't want you to miss this.
Conquest flies by so quickly that the shockwave alone is potent enough to dismember every human body within a 30-foot range. Where do we even begin? The most accessible comparison I can think of is to blast pressure, which is generated by ground explosions, where overpressure, which refers to the increase in pressure above the ambient or atmospheric pressure, can cause fatal damage to the human body. Technically speaking, as the pressure wave propagates through the human body, it can cause catastrophic damage to internal organs and tissues by rapidly changing the pressure differential between internal spaces, compressing internal gas and displacing our mostly liquid body parts. But here's the thing. Standing 10 to 20 feet from 100 kilograms of TNT might subject you to a blast overpressure of 15 psi at most. We're talking severe lung damage, rupture of the eardrums, blindness, and potentially fatal injuries such as traumatic brain injuries, severe concussions, and hemorrhaging. Survival unlikely, but it wouldn't tear you limb from limb. So, in order for Conquest to dismember every human body within a 30-foot range, the overpressure would likely need to be significantly higher, potentially in the range of 50 to 100 psi, or even more. Something tells me he'd need to be traveling unbelievably fast, much faster than portrayed in the clip, to recreate the necessary forces. Perhaps an intern well-versed in the subjects of supersonic speed and shockwave propagation could tell me how fast a Viltrumite needs to be traveling to create an overpressure wave in the range of 100 psi. Now, this, on the other hand, is a tad more realistic. An impact from Mark's outstretched skull at some 250 miles per hour would be enough to explode whatever human body part it touches. With each impact, his skull, effectively in this case a large projectile, transfers kinetic energy into human flesh, which ripples outward from the point of impact, displacing tissue via compression, tension, and shear forces to make room for the passing projectile. And well, human tissue can only stretch so far before its structure breaks down entirely.
Enough!
Yeah, I think we could all use a bit of a breather after that. If there's anything that could push Mark over the edge, it's an injured family member and a quickly climbing casualty count.
Get away from him, you animal!
And now, potentially another loved one in the line of fire.
Mark!
Get out of here! Go!
Yeah, this is serious now. Select the wheel and come again. So a swift chop to Mark's left femur causes a brutal compound fracture, more accurately termed an open fracture, where the bone pierces through the skin. Whenever we're dealing with an open wound, we need to act quickly to manage blood loss and prevent infection before reparative steps can be taken. In this particular case, I'm concerned about the femoral artery, which runs down the inner thigh from the groin area to the back of the knee, an easy target for broken femoral fragments jetting in its direction. That pool of blood beneath Mark is not a good sign. At least he's intuitively putting pressure on the wound to staunch the bleeding. But with a protruding bone in the mix, I know that hurts like hell. My man needs a surgeon ASAP. I think he should have me on speed dial, to be honest. Well, Adam Eve is able to keep Conquest busy for a few moments, but once her defensive powers are depleted, we're faced with a very fatal combination. Yes, the damage to her mandible and zygomaxillary complex is terrifying and will require intensive reconstructive surgery at the hands of a very skilled surgeon. But that hole in her chest literally spells death. Your thorax is protected by 12 pairs of ribs for a reason. Once the heart and lungs are compromised, we simply cannot survive. Now, it appears to me that Conquest's palm entered centrally around the level of the solar plexus, perhaps slightly lower than both of these critical organs, or perhaps tearing their bottom portions apart. Even if not directly impacted, they are both now surrounded by sharp fragments eager to cause puncture wounds. But wait, there's more. Firstly, the diaphragm, the thin dome-shaped muscle that sits below your lungs and heart and facilitates breathing by contracting and relaxing to expand and deflate the lungs, is definitely compromised. The thoracic aorta and superior vena cava, basically blood superhighways that travel through the center of the upper body, are severed. Like, for sure. As is the spine and spinal cord somewhere along the thoracic spine, meaning paralysis below the level of the injury. Make no bones about it, this is the end of Adam Eve. She has a couple minutes at most.
Such a waste.
No!
Or maybe the attack landed lower than I thought, and those are her intestines flapping unceremoniously in the wind. Though it may buy Eve an extra minute, a fist-sized hole in your liver, stomach, intestines is also going to be fatal. The aorta, vena cava, and spine are still severed, and catastrophic blood loss is closing in quickly.
Eve, please. I can't do this without you. I can't live without you.
And Mark knows it.
If you've got anything to tell her, I wouldn't wait. Oh, too late.
Damn. This show knows how to hit the viewer right where it hurts. And we're right back where we started. Fist to fist. Only this time, the stakes are a whole lot higher. Mark has suffered another compound fracture to the bones in his forearm, the radius and ulna. When intact, these two forearm bones are like dance partners, articulating together to help you move your arm. At the elbow, they connect to the humerus. That's the upper arm bone. And at the wrist, they have different connecting points to various smaller bones. When the palm is in pronation, pointing down as we see here, the radius bone is positioned towards the inside of the wrist. And in this case, it is the bone protruding from Mark's skin. But in a battle to the death, Mark doesn't need his right hand to cause considerable damage. As one of the most superficial, or closest to the skin, muscles of the upper back, the trapezius makes an excellent target for a big old bite. You know as well as I do, it'll take far more than that to slow Conquest down. That's just about right, Professor Mark. Now, if you're familiar with Invincible, this is the point in the battle where it devolves into a primal slugfest, typically ending with super beans, super brains, mashed like your mom's famous potatoes. Apparently, that's what it takes to neutralize an angry Viltrumite.
Mark!
Miraculously, Adam Eve activates a latent power while on the brink of death, focusing her subatomic manipulation abilities into a deadly beam. We might think of this like a large version of the focused radiation beams we use to destroy tumors, like gamma knives or free electron lasers. When intense radiation comes into contact with living tissue, it causes catastrophic damage to DNA. That is to say, it damages cell building blocks at the subatomic level, leading to cell death and tissue destruction.
Jerk.
Eve.
Consistent with our hypothesis, it looks like Conquest has suffered from extreme radiation burns. If we were looking at burns from intense heat, we might expect charred, blackened flesh. As painful as this looks on the outside, the thing about an attack that unravels your cells at the subatomic level is that the true devastation occurs beneath the surface. The damage to Conquest cells, tissues, and organs would be irreparable, causing widespread cellular destruction, DNA mutations, and potentially even disrupting the very fabric of his molecular structures. And yet,
Got more than enough fight left in me for you, boy.
he catches Mark's hand with its fingers still curled into a fist and presses down on the metacarpal bones until they snap. Were I working in the emergency department and someone came in with a uniform fracture across their metacarpal bones like this, I would be very surprised. Like, what would even do that? Not a punch, where the forces are distributed across the hand. It may be a fluke workplace accident involving something heavy and long landing on the bones in question? Perhaps. Generally speaking, fractures to the metacarpal bones, other than the fifth, are relatively less common compared to other parts of the hand, such as the fingers or the wrists. This is because the metacarpal bones are thicker and stronger, providing more stability and protection to the hand. Well, when life gives you lemons...
See? More than enough.
Not enough. Not nearly. Is this what you wanted?
I'm sure you can guess what happens next. Conquest is severely weakened, Mark is injured and desperate, and the frontal bone makes for an effective blunt force weapon. Go get us a thumbnail, Professor.
Is this what you wanted? You enjoyed yourself? Still having fun? Answer me!
Well, interns, are you? Special shout out to those of you who made it this far. Turns out even beings with superhuman abilities need a functional nervous system. Not super brains mashed like your mom's famous potatoes. Thanks for joining me in this discussion of Viltrumite anatomy and orthopedic injury. If you found this video informative and you want to see more like it, don't forget to subscribe and check out the other videos in this series. For sneak peeks of my videos before they go live, consider becoming a member of the channel as well. We're working towards a goal of 1 million subs and we can't do it without you. So consider sharing the video and let's make it happen together. Don't forget to follow my gym, Human 2.0 Fitness, for free right here on YouTube, where we post content that helps you move better and prevent injury. Or its sister channel, Human at Home, where we show you how to be healthy in the space where you live. Otherwise, as always, that's been a word from Dr. Chris Raynor, not your everyday ortho, where we see one, do one, teach one.